I want to make a few references to a fantastic article you've written today, which is how Liverpool won the battle for the German starlets, and it runs through, the last 4 to 6 weeks. It feels like longer than that, but sort of 4 to 6 weeks really well. And where you start, Paul, is by pointing out that it wasn't just all the top clubs who wanted him, but he had meetings with three of the top coaches in world football, certainly at the biggest clubs. So company at Bayern, he spoke to Pep Guardiola, obviously, and then Arne Slot. And I think it says a lot about not just Liverpool, but of course Arne Slot, that he's the one
Yeah,
who ended up being the most impressive.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I think over a period of time, we've probably become accustomed to Liverpool not winning these sort of races.
Yeah.
I think that's why there'll be a sense that that it's a coup for whatever reason. Sort of, if you go back to sort of Aurelien Tchouameni, sort of Real Madrid got in there first, and Liverpool didn't do that. Couldn't pull that one off. So I think it obviously there's a lot of groundwork that we in the media weren't privy to, and we didn't know that Liverpool had been doing for a number of years to get to a point where they can be very persuasive to the player. But I think it's also almost like the perfect storm of um, Liverpool reaping the rewards for a long term vision, which probably starts with how meticulous they were in recruiting Arne Slot to replace Jurgen Klopp, um, not caving into pressure to just sign people. I think that's the discipline of not just. So, for example, say if we rewind to 12 months ago, and there's all the sort of Zubimendi talk, and obviously they were in for Zubimendi, and he had cold feet at the end of that. If probably Liverpool, if they just do what we've seen other clubs do and say, right, we need to get somebody in because we need to get somebody in. If they don't have the discipline and the sort of strength of a recruitment strategy to say, no, we're not just signing anybody now because we couldn't get our first choice. We've already identified Ryan Gravenberch as somebody who can play as number 6. If they don't have that strength of character, they probably then don't have the funds to then go and get Florian Wirtz this summer. So I think it is Liverpool reaping the rewards of that vision, and then I think you have all the other factors that come into play in the way that the team's been so successful in 2024-25. Slot's ability to get more out of not just a Ryan Gravenberch or a Dominic Szoboszlai, but he gets more out of Mo Salah and he gets more out of Virgil van Dijk, which must be very sort of powerful to a player from the inside, from the outside looking in. And I think you also have the sort of the celebrations and the way that the club has come together with the supporters in the Tottenham game and what was happening at the end of the season. I think it was the sort of, you look back at sort of press conferences, and I think it was the week after the Tottenham game, just going into the Chelsea game, and Slot had said that he'd been speaking to some players, and he'd been saying, this is a special club with special fans, and it all sort of, when that's all aligned perfectly, it's a place to be. And he was basically saying that you explain this to players when you're speaking to them. But what the Tottenham game showed was sort of the evidence in chief, just to then present to I don't need to say anything to support these pictures. Look at what you could be part of. And I think that was, so I think it's all those factors have sort of played a part in trumping the interest from Bayern Munich and Manchester City that was certainly there.
Yeah, it is so many factors, isn't it? But so many of them are positive for Liverpool at the moment. And you talked there about a few things, but one of them was the idea of being sort of very settled at Liverpool at the moment. And It's remarkable, really, how well they've managed to come out of the post-Jurgen Klopp era to feel so settled, because a lot of the key people involved in this haven't actually been in position for that long time. I think obviously getting Michael Edwards back would have felt like huge for FSG because they've got the working relationship. He then brings Richard Hughes in, who, and the pair of them recruit Arne Slot. But now it just all of a sudden does sort of feel so settled, that the squad still feels fairly settled as well. Obviously, there's a couple of the players who are a little bit older, but they've still signed up. And you look at, for example, at Manchester City, and you've referenced this in the article, where, when they were asked, well, how long's Pep Guardiola going to be here for? They're not sure. And what City looks like in a post-Pep Guardiola world is a little bit unclear at the moment. I mean, what one City look like next year is a little bit unclear, but we're certainly sort of after that, whereas Liverpool have come through the post-Jurgen Klopp period and are arguably as stronger than ever.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think we're actually going into a period of a little bit of change now because of the signings that the club is making. It's probably unusual that you win a title and then make this amount of changes, and I think there's still more changes that will come. I think it's going to be a bit of a trading summer for Liverpool, so they'll try and trim back the squad and raise some of the funds that sort of fit in with the self-sustaining model. I think how that change and disruption, if you want to use that word, is executed, we'll have to wait and see. But I think you can't deny the sort of ambition that Liverpool is showing. And I think, to use your phrase, the sort of the way the club is settled and the stability that the club has at the moment is very powerful. I think we were talking just off air before about the sort of evolution of the club over the last sort of 10 years, and it, the rise has been pretty remarkable, really. To get to the point where Liverpool are convinced that spending 100 million, 116 million on one player is the right way to go. There's probably times 10 years ago where I wondered whether they would win a title again, to be honest. So, for all these young Liverpool supporters that have witnessed the last sort of 8 years, it's a pretty remarkable time to be a Liverpool fan. And I think that is then obviously translated in the scenes that you've seen at the end of the season, and that all adds to the sort of allure of Liverpool. Of if you're Florian Wirtz and you think, and you're very much sort of motivated by sporting projects,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot to say that Liverpool looks like a really exciting sporting project at the moment.